Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Thank you for tuning in. Uh, we are so excited to be speaking to you again in our weekly DGX Spark Live. And today we've got a very, very special guest from Stanford. But as we get started, tell us in the chat, tell us where you're joining from. We would love to hear throughout the live stream as well. If you've got questions, suggestions, keep them coming in the chat. We'll try to answer as many as possible. Thank you again for having us. And as usual, behind the scenes, we've got Zach Lowe and Max on our NVIDIA side who are going to be managing all things for us to get this entirely great session going. And I see a few folks joining in, saying hello from India. Oh, that's amazing. Hi, folks. Keep joining. While you're all joining, we'll start with introductions today. So this is a special episode because, as you all know, NVIDIA tends to work very closely with educators, researchers, students across the globe because these are folks who are really trying to push the boundaries of innovation. And with that thought in mind, we've got Marcel today joining from Stanford. Hi, Marcel. Very nice to meet you.
Hi, Sama. How you doing?
We're doing good. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Marcel. I'm a third-year PhD student at Stanford. I work in Yuri Leskovec's lab called Snap Group. I work mostly on core machine learning things, foundational machine learning, but I've also done a lot of work in biology. And the stuff we're going to talk about today is more on the biology side, but specifically using DJX Spark.
Oh, excellent. Third year in PhD. That is so impressive. What is your focus for your PhD?
Yeah, so I do more like foundational machine learning things. That's sort of the niche that I've found. I work on figuring out how to do machine learning as effectively as possible, very close to the hardware. So for me, a lot of the time I'm thinking about specifically what works on GPUs, but also on other hardware. And specifically, like the new Blackwell chips are something I'm studying quite deeply right now and trying to understand how can we build better machine learning models that do what current models do, but with less resources, or do more impressive things with the same amount of resources.
That is so, so impressive. We also know that you interned at NVIDIA, so welcome back. It's
Thank you.
great to have you here. We know that your labs was one of the first ones to receive a DGX Spark system. So tell us a little bit about how your lab has been using these systems.
Yeah, thank you. The DJX Spark has been great. So we got it quite early, I think around like 30 days before launch, something like that, which was really nice. Specifically, it's been a really just powerful machine for debugging, for building our systems, for preparing to stage up to really, really large, massive clusters. We have a good amount of compute resources in general, but the DJX Spark is still invaluable to us because it lets it be like a personal machine that doesn't need to have all the same infrastructure, all the scheduling set up, everything needed to run on efficiently on these large clusters, but still has all the power. Specifically, GPU memory is really powerful to have when you want to debug, when you want to build something, and the same hardware as the Blackwell chips that we want to deploy on later on. And so having this as a staging for us, having it as a debugging environment has been invaluable, and it really speeds up our development, during research specifically.
I could not have explained DJX Spark better than that, right? Like it's literally designed for researchers like you to have that accelerated compute right at their desk. You need to have dedicated access to a lot of this computing, especially for things that you're looking into. And DJX Spark literally does exactly that. Uh, let's start with seeing a little bit of what you're working on. Do you have a demo for us?
Yes, so I have a little video demo first. Let
Okay.
me bring that up first. So this is for a product developed in my lab called Biomni. Biomni is an AI agent that's quite general purpose, but specifically meant for automating biological research. So I'll show a quick demo here. This is for protein structure prediction. You can see the
Okay.
demo, right? Yes.
Yes, we can.
So here we're trying to predict the structure of IL-2. And you can see what happens first is we ask a question about what to do specifically. The model will suggest a plan. So this is querying some cloud model, or in fact, we also have an RL trained model that we've developed ourselves to improve with tool usage. But specifically here, I think this is Claude that's running in this case. It generates a few tasks to do. You sort of confirm, looks good in this case, proceed with the plan. And it will go do quite a lot of things in an automated fashion. it even uses the information that it produces itself in order to inform, what to do next or update its plan in some way. You'll see that it'll execute. It'll take quite a while to do. It's doing quite complicated analysis and producing CIF files, which are structure files, and in addition to figures and output data, all this stuff. You can also input any data you want in this case, but you'll see here the result it produces has scoring in standard benchmarks that are important to understand how good the quality of the output is. It'll also produce references to, in this case, like PDB information, which is like protein information, or like referencing to like big databases that have information about a lot of individual things that are relevant to the specific protein we're talking about. And you'll see here is a bunch of output. So you can see even the structure. Sorry, let me go back here. You can see even the structure of the protein. You can navigate it and see, does it look like what I expected, or is it completely unexpected? In this case, I think the quality is pretty high. And then you can see more information about specifically like what modeling parameters were used. What is the interactive? What does the structure look like in terms of binding sites and such? It gives you a lot of insight into the results that have been produced right there in your browser, as well as like automating all this like tedious work, all the data pipelining. It could do quite a lot of things in an automated fashion, which
that is amazing. This was a great video demo. Can we actually see this in action? Like, can we see this live if you have a setup ready right now?
Yes, I do. Give me a second to bring that up. I think this one would be good. So I'd prefer, sorry, let me zoom in a bit. Can you see this clearly?
If you can zoom in just a little bit more, that'll be nice then. Yes, this is good.
Here. But in general, you can see I can ask a very simple question. Like this is, with not too many details. And I'm asking about a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I'm trying to find drug targets in this case. And it'll first, think about it for a bit and then ask for clarification for certain things. So I could continue to ask things here, but it takes a little while to run through. So I'd prefer not to do that during the demo. So in this case, it asks for like, what data sources should I use? And it will give me several options. In this case, I picked like only use public databases. I don't want to, have my own private data, or I don't have like academic only data that I want to use. And then ask for, what criteria do you want to prioritize? And then what stages are we the most interested in? In this case, it's NASH progression. So I say it looks good. It will generate a bunch of, create a plan here as well that you can look through if you're interested in reading like what exactly it tried to do. And then it'll go through step by step and perform all the steps of the plan. So it's even pulling the data for me. I didn't even have to input any data here. It found the endpoints properly to pull it from, use the APIs automatically, and then did a bunch of like analysis. You can see here, like here's a notebook containing all the data analysis that it did. We could zoom in and think about each thing specifically if we wanted to, or edit the file. You can do a lot of things here to keep informing it or learn more about what it's done. And then finally, it creates a summary on what it was able to do with the rationale and everything. So it's a pretty complete way of going from basically nothing to quite a lot of analysis, which
So literally running a full end-to-end AI agent on your system locally itself.
So yes, it can. In this case, we're running in the cloud. The tokens themselves are generated in the cloud, but all the analysis here is very useful to do on Spark or on any NVIDIA GPU. So you can run. I mean, in this case, this is CPU stuff, but often you have embedding models. You have more complex 3D modeling stuff that needs acceleration to be run properly. But for most of the time, we're using like either cloud GPU system or our own GPU systems for the actual like token generation part of this.
That sounds great. Now, for the portion of it where you're using DGX Spark, I do see a question in the chat here, especially with the embedding models. Are you using a single system or are you clustering two of these together?
So we only have one system currently. So we would love to cluster them together. I think it lets you have more memory. It lets you test the multi-GPU case, which I think is very hard to do unless you can pay for multiple Blackwell GPUs these days, right? So I think that aspect is definitely would be valuable to us, but we don't have the resources right now to do it. So maybe if there's another DJX Spark in the cards, then we would, but we have not tried this yet.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm going to talk about another question, which says, is this AlphaFold in the backend? If not, is it Stanford's new model?
So in this case, it's not using AlphaFold, I think. I'm not entirely sure. But let's see. It depends on what you want to do and what the model deems to be right. Generally, it will use an external model for this. We're not using our own model for folding in this case, but we actually do have models that do folding in this way as well. This is just not using them currently. But one nice thing about Biomni is a big part of training it, especially the models that we have ourselves. So even for the token generation part, we have our own reinforcement learned models. We train them to use specific tools. We train them in settings where they need to use these specific tools. So for us specifically, if we know we have this really solid protein folding tool, we can ask it to do that and tie it very neatly together with the token generation model as well. And we're trying to sort of figure out how to do like multimodal analysis in this setting where the same model is processing both like RNA and proteins, but also the text. So you can get an understanding of your sequences using the text itself as well as sort of like natural language prompting for the sequences that you're.
That is amazing. That is so amazing. I see another question, but that's probably for me. So it says, what would be a good project on Spark to learn the capabilities of the machine? So I do want to call out, and this is for everybody joining us, we've got a website called build.nvidia.com/Spark. I'm going to ask Zach or Max to add the link in here. That's where we've got tons and tons of these playbooks, right? These playbooks are essentially use cases that you can try. We've made it very easy for you by giving you step-by-step instructions to create an AI agent, to create a portfolio optimization agent altogether, to try out different things, including NVIDIA named microservices or using PyTorch, all kinds of possible use cases. We've created these instruction outlets for you. They're all on that website, and you can just just follow them step by step and create any of that AI application that you're trying to build on Spark. So awesome. This was great, Marcel. I actually do have some more of my own questions for you to ask. So you've got this entire setup of this essentially like a biomedical AI agent, right? What does this practice of using this AI agent mean in your lab, right? What kind of tasks are you automating on a daily basis?
That's a good question. Yeah. For us, I mean, it's mostly data analysis stuff and designing protocols for actual like scientists to use. I mean, not that we're not actual scientists, but people who do things in wet labs to use.
PhD, you are pretty close to being a scientist.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And doing literature research as well is like really valuable to us. So not only is it processing the data that I give it, not only can it read sources online or find sources online, but it can combine those two things together in such a way that you can like go back and forth and sort of inform your analysis with literature and inform your literature reading by your analysis, right? The way that a human would do as well. And I mean, we're not bioresearchers specifically, but for bioresearchers, like this is invaluable in the sense that it lets you automate a lot of the busy work, a lot of the things that people might consider boring, right? And get more to the meat, or extract the important parts of the thing you're interested in, instead of every individual person having to be an expert on every little part of the biological discovery process.
Agreed. And that's the whole point of AI as well, right? You want to equip humans with the ability to, as you said, right, get to the meat faster, get to the interesting portions of that cycle faster, versus going through your similar tasks on a daily basis, but actually automating them so that you can get to innovation sooner as well. I do see another question in the chat, and that's more specifically, it's going to be a combination of you and me, Marcel, but the models that you're using running on DJX Spark in your lab are these small language models, large language models, and then while doing the evaluation, is it capable enough to do testing? So I'll let you answer this first, and then I'll talk about from the product side as well.
I'm a bit unclear on what they mean by testing here.
I can take that one, but what kind of models are you using on DJX Spark?
We're using quite reasonably large models, up to 120B for the most part. So GPT OSS has been a pretty useful model for us. In that case, it is like a mixture of experts type model. But typically, if we're doing like for research, you need not just the most optimized models. So you have to use models that are more in a research stage, right? And for that, we use up to 30B sizes on DJX Spark. It's been quite nice.
Amazing.
Which is, we consider to be quite large, at least in the on the research side. Although I know in industry, like, some people are running models that are much bigger than that.
Agreed. Oh, totally agreed. And this goes back to how you explained why you chose DJX Spark in the first place, right? You wanted to make sure that you've got dedicated resource at your desk, which is just enough to get your daily work going while you have other larger resources for anything beyond that. So just to completely answer the question as well, we've got the ability to run models up to 200 billion parameter models, just as Marcel mentioned as well. He's running GPT OSS 120 billion parameter models, and you can run up to 200 billion at FP4. Let's say you're stacking two of these devices together, you can actually double that, right? So you can go up to 400 billion parameter models at FP4 also. So great, again, since you have that FP4 capability, the device is essentially excellent for that testing capability, because you can take a lot of these models, use FP4 quantization, and then test as many models, sometimes concurrently as well, depending on the size.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. For us, like one of the big parts too is that if you want to use the Grace Blackwell, cloud compute, you need to adapt your code in several ways. Like it's not the same architecture as running on x86 or traditional servers, and it's not necessarily that difficult to get right. But spending several hours on very expensive compute, each person individually doing this is probably not the best idea. And so being able to stage to go through the DJX Spark is like your staging area, right? Here's where I figure out, how do I make this work in the first place? Does my code even run, right? Can I get decent results with a minimal like testing size input? You do that first, and then finally, once you have everything working properly, then you can stage to the really expensive, high contention Blackwell GPUs in the cloud. Right?
Agreed. So that actually gets me to an interesting question for you, Marcel. So you use DGX Spark in the lab, and then you also have these cloud resources. Tell me a little bit more about what does your setup in the lab look like, right? Just because I know we'll have a lot of students like you, PhD students, researchers like you joining this session as well. So tell us, what does your setup in the lab really look like?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, our lab is a bit unique in the fact that we have a pretty good amount of compute in general. So we have 9 nodes of A100s, which would be 72 GPUs, something like this, as well as 1 Blackwell node that we use quite a bit. The thing about these, though, is that there's high contention again. So if you want to be using them, often, there's some downtime in the work you're doing or whatever, and then a node gets scheduled for something else. And, obviously, you don't want to be taking up space if you don't need it, right? And so an additional thing here is that when you're working on these large cluster environments, all the infrastructure around it means that things are generally quite slow. So you have to handle network storage for things. You have to make sure that you're dealing with the scheduler right, and there are other people running things on the same machine that might slow you down, or using all the network bandwidth, all this stuff, right? The nice thing about the DJX Spark then, so that's our staging area in this case, is that it's just entirely local, right? You're not considering the fact that there's 100 users on it or whatever, right? And so you can develop very freely. You can get some result very quickly, and then continue to iterate until you get to the point where, in this case, then we would move it to the large compute. So I'll schedule myself, say, I have this job that needs to run for 8 hours, or overnight or something, after I've figured out that everything works properly on the DJX Spark. And previously, I used to use a desktop machine for this. But the problem there is if you use a 4090 or something, which I've been doing, you have 32 gigabytes of RAM, 24 gigabytes of RAM, sorry. And that is not enough to store any reasonably sized model or do, especially training runs are very difficult to do on that. And so having the additional, 100 plus gigabytes of GPU memory that you get from the DJX Spark is invaluable in that sense, because you can run that actually the same models, right, on the DJX Spark as on your Blackwell or Hopper chips, but in a setting that's much more casual, I guess, in that sense, right? Not as strict.
Yep. That is perfect. So with this particular setup, right, that you have DJX Spark dedicated to you, and then you've got other powerful GPUs whenever you need to run like a bigger workload, uh, how easy it is for you, especially using AI, to now go from that I have an idea to actually testing that entire workload?
Idea in what sense? Like a research
Yeah, let's say
idea,
you
a research
have
problem?
a research idea or a machine learning model idea or any idea that you have, especially related to your, this focus in the lab itself. How easy has that become for you now?
Yeah, it's much easier than it used to be. I think specifically, you know, we're very used to running things on CPU first, entirely,
Hmm.
locally, and then staging to GPU. But most of the time that there's like a big clash there, right? Like there are things that are GPU specific, especially if you want to do multi-node stuff, multi-GPU stuff. It gets very tricky, and even in the non like just single GPU setting, it's even running the minimal case of your thing, it can be very difficult, right? So often you're debugging in the sense that you're uh, always going to the cloud provider to run one thing, and then it fails, right? And you have to wait another 10 minutes or something to schedule
Yep.
up spin up a new thing, right? A new container. And that part has been eliminated. So that sort of gives you a tighter loop of iteration, which I think has made it much easier for us. And so I'd say it's now definitely a lot easier. And um, it takes us on the order of 10 minutes where it might have taken us previous an hour to get something running at the proper scale, the actual thing I want running, right? But still, I think it doesn't mean you can use the Spark and only the Spark machine for these things. Like
Yep.
you need a lot of compute, like you need a lot of throughput, then you still need to go to the higher end GPUs, right?
Yeah. What Spark is giving you is that it's that entry point to the world of AI, right? You
Yes,
have,
and it's very snappy, right? Like
yes.
even if I were to try to debug if I had my own access to a remote server, right, no one else was
Hmm.
using at all. In fact, the CPUs on those are quite a bit slower per core than what you get on the DJX Spark. And so if what I'm trying to do is install things or just iterate, run my Python script over and over and over again, right? Get to the point where it breaks and then see, why did it break in this case, right? In those cases specifically, it's much faster, like 2-3 times faster than what I can get even from having a full node just to myself, right, in the cloud.
That's amazing. I'm happy to be hearing this feedback from you. I do see another question in here, and I can take this one, which is at retail sellers, we see two versions provided by NVIDIA, PNY, NVIDIA DGX Spark, and NVIDIA DGX Spark. Is there any difference? There is actually no difference. Those are the same products itself. So just to clear that out, we've got PNY, who's one of our biggest distributors out there, but it is the same product that you're going to be getting at the end of the day. And I see, because Marcel, you actually shared your setup. Uh, we've got a lot of people sharing their setups in their labs as well. So thank you. Keep that coming. That's really interesting to see.
Very
With
cool.
that, I don't see any more questions here. So I am going to see. Yeah, so I don't see any more questions. But folks, if you have questions, keep them coming. We'll make sure that we reply back to you through this chat itself on YouTube. So make sure you keep adding your questions. Uh, Marcel, thank you so much for joining us. This was great just to see how you're using DGX Spark in your lab. I did also want to make sure that everybody on this live stream, you get to know that we've got NVIDIA GTC happening in March. So Zach, if you can bring up the details here, I do want to call out to everybody that this is going to be held in San Jose in California. Not only do we promise beautiful weather, but we promise that you'll have an amazing opportunity to learn, build, network with the brightest minds in AI. And if you are, actually, I do want to call out for all the DJX Spark fans out there, we'll have a hands-on lab there as well. So you can actually join, you can register for it, and then you can join this hands-on lab. And Zach, if you can share the details for these hands-on lab as well, especially the date. Right here. Thank you. So this is happening on Wednesday, March 18th at 1 p.m. This is going to be managed by in Spark, actually engineers who are working on Spark day in and day out. So this is going to be a great opportunity to come try a DJX Spark system. If you've never tried it, interact with our engineers, get all your questions answered in real time too. And then not to miss is going to be Jensen's keynote. We always hear that is the Super Bowl of AI. So you'll see Jensen talking about all the great things happening at NVIDIA. And then lastly, I've got, if you are a student, right, we've got great resources for you at NVIDIA GTC2. We've got an amazing session catalog. We've got an agenda targeted for students, for researchers, literally anybody and everybody in higher education. So look at the link we're starting to add in the chat window. Make sure that you register for GTC, and we hope to see you all there in person. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you again, Marcel. So great to hear all of your great work that you're doing on DJX Spark too.
Thank you, Sama. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, folks. See you next Friday.
Have a nice day.